Sorry.
You? That's a pretty broad statement.
Their weight facility opened last time we were there. It's spectacular.
Really?
I've been to 46 states, missing Hawaii, New Mexico, North Dakota, and Montana. You've been to Montana, probably.
Lived in New Mexico, been to Montana, highly endorse Montana. Highly. My highest number of cross sabers, so I would give you five cross saber endorsement for Montana.
Add Montana to the list.
Montana goes to the top.
What about North Dakota? Should I make it up?
Yeah.
You been there?
Just kind of.
What is it about Montana that's popular?
So they call Montana the last best place.
I say that about my house.
I say that about sheets.
Well, for the
Sounds like you all need to get out more.
hey, for the people watching online and the Chamber of Commerce people in Montana, I'm sure they'll love that endorsement. So we'll get started here with some questions from Coach, and then we'll open it up for some comments from Coach, and we'll open up for some questions.
The real season begins in terms of game week preparation. For the first game, the format and the time frame isn't the same as normal college football. You have a few extra days, you have a few extra minutes, and you have some luxury to possibly head down a road, maybe schematically make some adjustments and still have time for your first opponent. That's no longer the case. So all around the country right now, coaches, including ours, are arriving early and staying late and operating within the same time frame to make the adjustments from week 1 to week 2 and now apply it in a regular week versus the second opponent. And so we're right in the middle of that and looking forward to continuing to grow our team and our program. So I'm glad to take questions.
You were able to rotate a number of players on the defensive line. What does that luxury allow you to do, and is that something you would like to do in every game if you can?
Yeah, I would love to play as many defensive linemen as are prepared to play, and that can be 5, it might be 6 maximum. Run front defense has a lot to do with fresh bodies, physical bodies, and bodies that know what to do. And so the more that we can play that fit that criteria, the better, because it gives us a chance to play harder, longer. And I don't think you really can control a game defensively unless you can keep the opponent behind the chains and get to third down with hopefully not manageable numbers on their part in terms of the yardage. So I think first and second down have a lot to do with that, which have a lot to do with defensive line play, which have a lot to do with who you have playing it and how many you have playing it.
Coach, when you play an FCS school, things seem to go either of two ways. What happened here 2 years ago, and people never seem to forget that, or what happened Saturday night when people say, "Oh, well, that was the way it was supposed to be." So, at what point do you think you'll have an idea of how good your team is?
December. I believe in a developmental mindset and a growth mindset, and you have a chance to improve until you're out of games. And I really like the reference point. If you go back to how you framed it, where it can go one of two ways, where you're upset or you're viewed that you weren't ready, or the program has a long ways to go, or it's the expected, where you have a solid win versus an opponent that is supposed to be of lesser caliber based on division, and that is expected. And I would just as soon have the result be in relation to exceeding expectations, which I think we're off to a good start through week 1. Lots and lots to improve. How good we are, or anyone else, to be honest, it's hard to say. But we'll find out.
What stood out to you in Indiana's win over Florida International this past week?
I think there's just a little bit more certainty as to who they are. Under a new head coach, year 2 always seems to bring some momentum, brings a little bit more clarity. And so I would just say their identity is cleaner than what it was a year ago, which there was, we saw 2 different quarterbacks in our game, and there was different styles there. Their defense is more consistent in terms of their identity, but I just think it's becoming clearer who they want to be and why.
And just to follow on that, Peyton Ramsey, their quarterback last year, kind of came sort of out of nowhere and had a great game against you guys. What have you seen from him?
Similar. So a quarterback that can extend plays, and like much of college football now, the quarterback position is the catalyst for not only yards through the air, but yards on the ground. And just again, I remember a year ago we spent so much time in preparing for the starting quarterback, and when Ramsey came in, it was a completely different style. And so the alteration of the plan, and I remember exactly what that was like and kind of adjusting midstream.
Do you see Bryce's abilities as similarly effective as a runner or passer, or is he ahead in one of the areas?
If I were to assess now, I would say he's ahead in the run game. But the most improvement since he's arrived has been in the pass game. So the growth and development at a really rapid level has come in that area in relation to where he started. And so I think it's fair to say that he's ahead in the run game, but the pass game has made the most growth.
Coach, you've been around a lot of players and a lot of runners, a lot of backs. I'm wondering, how close does Jordan Ellis come to meeting the full potential that a player has and can achieve?
Yeah, I would say that Jordan Ellis, not in comparison to anyone else, but the way that he trains and the way that he concentrates and the way that he prepares is exceptional, meaning that he's one of the closest players to reaching their potential that I've coached by his habits. So he maximizes what he's been given, what his capabilities are, through mindset, through work ethic, through training, through diligence. And I think he is UVA football. That is the exact player that I would like folks to look at and say, what are you looking for? And he embodies exactly what we're looking for.
I was hoping we get injury updates on Proctor, Cassius Pete, and Tyler Fannin, and they didn't play.
Okay, so Proctor first. I haven't heard yet. I have not seen our injury report today. We were hopeful to have him back for this week, though. So when he went down, that was what we were hopeful for. Tyler Fannin is most likely out for the season. I don't expect him to return. And Cassius Pete, his shoulder injury has made it to where he no longer wants to play. And so just as of yesterday, he's not going to play football.
What was that kind of conversation like? Obviously, he's been through a lot, throughout, I guess, 4 or 5 years now.
Difficult and internal struggles, and just a cumulative effect, I would say.
Did you want to mention Dom?
Oh, Dom Shepard, he had surgery this past weekend. It ended up being significant, ACL, and so he'll be gone for the year after a really, really strong fall camp.
That seemed to be a really athletic play Mandy Alonso made on his sack, particularly for a guy coming off a significant injury. What does his return to the lineup mean for the line, and where can he improve, or do you want him to improve from what he did as a true freshman?
It was a great play on the sack. Mandy played significant amounts and started the last 4 games, if I remember correctly. He's dynamic, meaning that he has a great first step and he has some explosion and he has the ability to make plays behind the line of scrimmage and in the backfield. And so besides just occupying space, there's a difference between that type of D-lineman and playmaking an active D-lineman, and Mandy is active. And so He's still not 100%, but it was encouraging to see him perform and to contribute and then make enough plays to where I think it helped us all with our confidence that he'll be back and for this week even at a higher level than what he just was.
Coach, Richard Burney was brand new defensive end last year in the bowl game. Can you just talk to me about what you've seen out of him in terms of growth?
He worked really, really hard and diligently through the spring. Same thing through the off season. He tested really well in the off season in relation to our metrics, and he was, I think, empowered by that, and that built confidence, as well as learning the position. And so he's still at the infancy stages of the position mastery component. But his understanding of the position and his physical development is where most of the growth comes. Now he just needs to play the game. And what we saw in the game one is a significant jump from his just throwing him in basically versus Navy to now having some schooling and training and development to play the position, which he was off to a good start.
And we mentioned Peyton Ramsey, but if I'm not mistaken, he's playing behind an offensive line that returns all 5 of last year's starters and added a grad transfer center from Miami, I believe. What additional challenges does playing a veteran front like that offer?
You know, usually just fewer mishaps and negative plays. It's always nice to keep the offense behind the chains, and if the offensive front is cohesive and consistent, it makes that harder.
Bronco in the back. Just from a taking hits, staying healthy, that kind of perspective, how do you think Bryce managed the game?
I think he did really well. He ran with a really strong presence. There were 2 runs where he didn't intend to go down. He was breaking tackles. He was fighting for yards, and it inspired the team. There are occasions where that's necessary. The fewer the better, as far as I'm concerned, and managing his health for the long term of the season. But I thought it was a good start for where we are.
Coach, if you don't mind, if I can go back to Jordan Ellis for a moment. When he's reaching or close to reaching his full potential, what is he giving you on the field? What is he giving you off the field?
On the field, there is he runs with power and he runs with confidence, and he does it over and over again. So his consistency, his reliability, and the physical nature and how he performs, it takes a lot for a body to develop your body to handle that kind of consistency and that many touches, and with the running style that he has, as he doesn't, he wouldn't be what's considered a speed back, it's more of a slasher, and those players take lots of hits and they drag tacklers, and there's multiple tacklers on most plays, and he's breaking more tackles each and every year. He's more physical, but his preparation is leading to that. And then off the field, he just sets the standard. Our team knows exactly what we expect and what we want, and they know they have someone to look to that provides that reference point, and Jordan does that, and really epitomizes one of our other guiding principles of less drama, more work. There's 0 drama with Jordan. He's always where he's supposed to be, doing what he's supposed to do as hard as he can do it, and feels lucky and grateful to do it.
Where do you stand with your reserve quarterbacks right now, and what was the strategy the other night?
Yeah, it's still, Lindell Stone still has the slight edge, I would say. If you're talking significant number of snaps and leading the team, for instance, if Bryce went down, maturity, decision-making, and just really how he moved the team in fall camp, it was slightly better. In game 1, it made more sense for Brennan Armstrong to get reps as it is game 1, and it didn't require much change for anyone else. So rather than the likelihood of miscues or maybe moving to some different emphasis within our plan, it seemed better just to keep the same plan and let Brennan play.
The fact that the redshirt rule has changed, did that enter into your thinking?
It enters into all of our thinking, and I'm first of all really happy to have been in a situation where we could let and have some players play, but yeah, it's a unique dilemma now as to how to predict when and if you'll need players later. versus encouraging them and seeing and evaluating them enough early to kind of count on and try to establish your depth for later. So all that was going through not only my mind but our staff's mind, and I think we managed it well. Time will tell.
Coach, I got a sort of off the beaten path question. What are some things maybe that you didn't see from your team? A lot of us have talked a lot about, Bryce this and Lamade that and Jordan this. What didn't you see from your team Saturday that you maybe wanted to see or you still need to see as you go forward?
Oh, just volume of plays. So there was a lot of different scenarios that played out in the game, and a lot of different types of situations that I think we were able to evaluate. Consistency right now is really what we need to see. How much volume will it take to truly determine where our strengths are, where our deficiencies are, and in between. So we certainly know in terms of consistency we need to, field goal kicking is still, while that I thought was a real significant improvement in fall camp, I'm still trying to identify where that range is and sorting out the difference of how to use both of our kickers. Again, we have AJ, and then we also have Hunter, which is, there's a different range level there. So I've got to push harder in practice to try to create scenarios to get that dialed in a little quicker so it doesn't just show up game time.
Coach, two big-time effort plays from Saturday that I think kind of underscore the increase in team speed you guys have. Brenton Nelson chasing down the Richmond receiver on the 54-yard completion. And then on the pick six, DeVaris Kelly almost completely chased down that linebacker. How much do those players resonate in the locker room and with the coaching staff? Those plays.
They resonate not only from an ability standpoint, but more from a desire standpoint. And so Brenton, I think many of us knew from a year ago, and coming from the track team, maybe what he was capable of. This year, hopefully his durability and consistency will allow that same kind of production to happen from beginning to end. And it was no surprise for our team to see Tavares Kelly chasing down someone. Our team has had a hard time catching him all fall camp, and really he hasn't had yet the exposure that at least for the fans and for others to watch us play, that the team has. Protection didn't hold in a number of cases where the ball was and he was the target, but that was, for those that were watching, that was a play to note that he is quick, he is tough. If you consider the game or the play where the ball was pitched to him and there was really a defender that had a clear shot and hit him and really as hard as he could, and he just bounced off and kept going and made positive yards. Tavares is little, but he's not small. He plays big heart, and he's tough.
Just one last quick follow-up on the red shirt rule. Are there guys who you've already identified as these guys are playing red shirt rule or not, as opposed to evaluating everybody?
Yeah, there's a couple already. We've talked about defensive line, so Jordan Redmond already, Aaron Famui for sure, Bobby Haskins at offensive tackle, Tavares Kelly. Those ones are kind of non-negotiables. The others are different levels of decision.
First start for Darius Bratton. How did he look in your?
Yeah, Darius did a really nice job. According to our grading system, there wasn't a defensive player that graded higher. And so, in fact, I made that a point in the team meeting today in showing a few clips of film. And Darius's debut, if you remember, was late and kind of clean-up play in our win over Boise State last year, and he got beat over the top for a touchdown. And it was just devastating to him. I remember seeing him in the locker room, and this, to have earned a starting role and to have played as well as he did was really gratifying. The team was really excited for him as well, so he played really well.
We're going to be talking to Jordan Mack and Malcolm Cook in a few minutes. Can you just talk a little bit about where they stand and what's impressed you about them?
Wow, two really unique and different stories. Jordan Mack is cut more in the mold of Jordan Ellis, where he would prefer not to be in front of the camera, prefer not to have to speak, and just work. He is fiercely conditioned and requires no extra effort to have him on our team or manage him in any way. He's Jordan at linebacker in a different build, and so just is really a joy to coach, and has amazing speed and athleticism for playing that position. Learned a lot under Micah and with Micah a year ago, and probably right after Chris Peace it would be the next most respected player within the defense, kind of from a leadership-ish type of role and consistency, not necessarily from playmaking and dynamic and vibrant personality, but just in terms of consistent and durable. Jordan would probably be that player. And then if you switch to Malcolm Cook, that's a completely different story, where there's been injury and there's been inconsistencies and there's been unique, challenging personal choices, and a lot of time that he and I have spent together. And he played well also. We moved him to the inside linebacker position. He's adjusted to that. And he knew as well as I, and he actually came to me and just said, you know, I understand for our best 11 players to be out there, someone's got to change positions. And I knew it was him, and he knew it was him. I didn't tell him. He kind of told me that this makes a lot of sense, and it always works better that way.
After the final practice of the spring in April, you talked at some length about Hassis Dubois, the penalty he got on the final play of the scrimmage, and how he needed to kind of grow up off the field. It seems like that's held him back more than anything on the field. How have you seen the growth you wanted from him over the summer and through the fall so far, and where is he as a receiver?
Yeah, I would say I've seen growth. I think he's made a conscious effort in his decision making. He has the support structure, and Coach Hagens works with him significantly. He was consistent in the game Saturday. He has been consistent through the summer. And so from that point of the last play of the spring game to now, he's meeting expectations. And so his hope and my hope is that it continues on and off the field, which to this point, since that play, it has. And yeah, I'm encouraged. He's encouraged. The team is encouraged, and he did a really nice job Saturday. And again, has since that teachable moment.
Real quick one, Delaney puts the ball through the end zone with regularity. Would you use him for a 55-yard field goal, or if you needed one? It's not out of the question. Again, going back to the PAT and field goal kicking and just that area, I'm not concerned. I'm not settled yet as to where exactly we are. It was I think after the game, I talked about the special teams kind of being neutral. Delaney's performance was not neutral. I think 6 of the 7 were out of the end zone, which is exceptional. And the other one was 1 yard deep from what I saw. And so he's off to a really good start.
Okay, thanks everyone. We'll have our student athletes in just a couple minutes.